Saipan Navy, this is Motor Sanmar Herald. You gave me clearance to go. You are firing now. Let me turn back. This image highlights the extreme vulnerability of the vessel making that distress call. A crude oil tanker has no armor, no defense mechanisms, and carries millions of gallons of highly flammable liquid. When struck by live ammunition, an unarmed cargo ship is effectively a massive floating bomb. And the Sanmar Herald was not alone. Greek crude oil tankers navigating the exact same waters were also caught in this unprovoked crossfire and forced to execute rapid emergency U-turns to avoid absolute destruction. The most jarring piece of the Indian captain's transmission is his confusion over being targeted. The crew wasn't attempting to sneak past a blockade. They were explicitly second on a clearance list, having already received official permission from Iranian authorities to cross the strait. A coordinated strike on a cleared Allied vessel rules out random piracy. This is a state-sponsored military ambush. To understand why Iran would fire on an Indian civilian ship, we trace the motive thousands of miles away to Washington, D.C. Just days before the ambush, the American president issued a sudden barrage of public statements declaring the Strait of Hormuz completely open, secured, and entirely free of violence. When the executive leadership of a global superpower publicly guarantees the safety of a major transit route, international shipping fleets listen. Relying on those specific assurances, commanders adjusted their risk assessments and routed vulnerable heavy cargo directly into the channel. But there was a bizarre secondary motive to these declarations. Over in the financial markets, certain traders seemed perfectly positioned ahead of the president's statements, placing massive short bets anticipating a drop in the price of crude oil. As the digital assurances of a peaceful strait flooded the news cycle, the perceived risk of an oil shortage vanished. Prices dipped, and those perfectly timed trades yielded hundreds of millions of dollars in profit. Digital statements meant to manage domestic stock markets and project American confidence abroad, ultimately engineered a localized, deadly illusion. Neutral cargo crews steered into a war zone under the false assumption that they were safe. This map shows the Strait of Hormuz, a tight geographic bottleneck squeezed between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. From Tehran's perspective, controlling physical access to these narrow shipping lanes provides direct leverage over the entire global energy supply. Iranian leadership furiously rejected the American narrative of a suddenly peaceful waterway. The Iranian parliamentary speaker took a rigid stance, publicly stating that all 7 claims made by the U.S. regarding the security of the strait were absolute lies. Because Iran cannot defeat the United States Navy in a direct, conventional confrontation, they execute an asymmetric response. They apply pressure to the system's weakest link, the daily flow of civilian trade. This geopolitical chaos was heavily compounded by the back-channel negotiations. The U.S. relied on Pakistan to act as an intermediary, leading to miscommunications, unreliable information, and conflicting messages that completely clouded the reality on the water. Tehran needed a method to unilaterally shatter Washington's narrative. By opening live fire on pre-cleared, neutral ships, Iran provided undeniable physical proof to the world that the digital claims of an open waterway were false. Back in New Delhi, the government's reaction was disciplined but pointed. India immediately registered a strong, formal diplomatic protest directly with the Iranian envoy. To understand India's frustration, we can look at a visual ledger of the bilateral relationship. India recently stepped up to support Iran, sending critical medical supplies. The irony sharpens when considering that the Indian Navy just rescued 2 sinking Iranian ships. Right now, rescued Iranian sailors are safely accommodated at an Indian naval base, while Iran's military empties magazines into Indian civilian cargoes. Tehran is so obsessed with projecting strength against the U.S. that it takes violent withdrawals from nations keeping it afloat. Globally, this harassment of neutral trade is forcing an immediate reaction. Countries like the United Kingdom and France are now actively assembling a massive maritime military coalition to police the strait. Instead of repelling foreign navies, Iran's aggression is backfiring. The attacks provide the United States with the exact operational justification needed to threaten a full ground invasion. When global superpowers engage in a high-stakes exchange of digital misinformation and proxy blockades, the working crews of neutral nations become the very first casualties. New Delhi must now decide where to draw a hard diplomatic line. As the international community tightens the military noose around the strait, Tehran simply cannot afford to shoot the few friends it has left.